Do you find it hard to understand what people are saying in movies? Do you have to read the subtitles every single time? Well, if you want to learn how to understand English movies without subtitles, then this is the video for you. Let's get started. Hi, I am your English teacher, and this is my channel where you gonna learn English step by step. So before we start today's lesson, please subscribe. And don't forget to press the notification bell so that you never miss any of my videos. Okay, let's go. As you know, watching movies and series is a great way to learn English because you can see how native speakers use English in real-life situations. It will also help you to improve your listening skills, expand your vocabulary, and learn new phrases and expressions. However, many students have told me that they really struggle with understanding native speakers when they speak fast or when there is background noise. They tell me that even though they watch a lot of movies, they still have problems understanding the dialogue. This is why I decided to record this lesson, because I am going to teach you some techniques that will help you to understand English movies and TV shows without subtitles. Now, do you know someone who struggles to understand English movies? Ask them to watch this video because I'm sure it will help them. Before I show you the first tip, I would like to remind you that if you want to download the PDF slides that I am going to show you today and all my other lessons, you need to go to my website and join my free newsletter. After you sign up, you'll receive an email with a password and the link to access my members area, where you gonna find all the PDFs you need. Remember that this is totally free. Now let's get back to our lesson. Okay, so the first thing you should do before watching your favorite series or movie is to make sure you have good internet connection. Why? Because if your internet isn't very good, you might hear some noises or you might experience interruptions while you're watching the movie, and this could make it harder to understand the dialogue. Secondly, make sure that the volume is loud enough. It's important that you can hear clearly. You can always turn down the volume if it is too loud for you, but if it is too low, unfortunately there's no way to increase it. So remember to check the volume before you start watching. And finally, choose a movie or series you've already watched before. It is important that you choose something you've seen before, because this will make it easier to follow the story, and also you'll already know what is happening and you won't be confused. The second tip is to write down new words. When you hear a new word, write it down immediately. Don't wait until the end of the movie. If you wait, you may forget what the word meant. So it's better to write it down right away. There are two ways you can do this. If you're watching a streaming service, most of them have a function where you can pause the movie and write down the new word in the bottom corner of the screen. The other option is to take notes using a notebook and a pen. In this case, you'll have to pause the movie every time you hear a new word and write it down. Of course, this method isn't as convenient as the first one, but it will still help you to remember new words. Okay, now I'm going to teach you some tips that will help you to understand English movies. The first tip is to listen to the beginning of each sentence, because that is where you're going to find the keywords. Usually this is the part that helps us understand what the person is going to say next. Let me give you an example. I'd like to invite you to dinner. I'd like to invite you to dinner. In this sentence, the keyword is invite. When you hear the keyword, you can predict what the person is going to talk about. So whenever you're listening to something in English, pay attention to the beginning of each sentence, because this is usually where the keywords are. My next tip is to focus on short sentences, because long sentences are harder to understand. Many times I watch movies, and the characters start speaking very fast, and they use really complicated sentences, which are difficult to understand. So when you hear long sentences, try to ignore them, because it is more important to understand the general idea of the movie than to understand every single detail. And now I'm going to teach you a very powerful technique called active listening. But before I do that, let me ask you a question. Have you ever listened to a song in English and then after a few days, you realized that you knew the lyrics by heart? How did you do it? Well, probably you didn't realize that you were practicing active listening. This is the same technique you use to memorize things in your native language. You repeat the words until you memorize them. So you can use the same technique to practice active listening when you're watching a movie. Whenever you hear a new word or phrase, pause the movie and repeat it. Do this every time you hear a new word or phrase. You can do this by pausing the movie using the remote control or by taking notes using a pen and a notebook. Doing this will help you to practice active listening, and also you'll improve your pronunciation and memorize new words at the same time. Another tip is to listen for the context clues. Sometimes when you watch movies, you may not understand certain words, but you can usually guess their meaning by looking at the context. For example, let's suppose that the character says, "I was so hungry that I ate like a horse." We don't know what the character means by eating like a horse. However, if we look at the context, we can probably assume that he's referring to eating a lot. So when you're watching movies, always try to look for context clues. This will help you to guess the meaning of new words. Now I'm going to teach you another technique that's called the jigsaw technique. First of all, think of a piece of paper and a pencil or pen. Now imagine that the piece of paper has been cut into small pieces. The jigsaw technique is based on this idea. We're going to do the same thing with the movie. That is, we're going to cut it into small pieces. To do that, we're going to divide the movie into small parts, and after each part, we're going to pause and reflect on what we just saw. So here is how it works. Choose a movie that is approximately 30 minutes long. Press play and watch the movie for 5 minutes. When the movie stops, pause it and write down 3 sentences summarizing what you just watched. Try to be as detailed as possible. Then continue watching for another 5 minutes. When the movie stops, write down another 3 sentences. Do this as many times as you need until the movie ends. When you finish, count how many ideas you wrote down. Now choose another movie of the same length and do the same activity. At the end of the day, count how many ideas you wrote down. Compare the results. If you wrote down more ideas from the second movie, it means that you've improved your comprehension skills. My last tip is to connect the words to images in your mind. When you hear a word, try to imagine what the word means. For example, when you hear the word happy, try to imagine a person smiling. If you're watching a movie, you can imagine what the characters are doing. For instance, if the character says, "I'm cold," you can imagine him wearing a jacket. By connecting words to images in your mind, you'll be able to understand movies better. So these were all my tips. I hope they will help you to understand English movies without subtitles. Remember that to get the PDF slides of today's lesson, you need to go to my website and join my free newsletter. After you sign up, you'll receive an email with the PDF you need. Don't forget to share this video with your friends. Thanks for watching and see you soon. Bye.